Hi, this is Tisch Aitken. It is September 5th, 2025. We are in eclipse weekend, so much at play. Pluto, which is the planet of transformation, death and rebirth, emotional intensity and drama, is out of bounds as of August 28th and will be through the end of November. And that means whenever a planet is out of bounds, it exceeds the sun's path, 23 degrees and 27 minutes north or south of the ecliptic, which is the sun's path. And it means that it acts out of control and does not play by the rules. And Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, and it can deal with war and murder, and unfortunately when Pluto got out of bounds, that was just about when that shooting occurred at the school or the church in Minneapolis with all of those poor children and students. And Pluto is going to be out of bounds the next 10 years towards the end of the year, like end of August through end of November or December. So it's adding to the drama. But the astrologer Pam Gregory, I saw an interesting report where she claims that when it's south of the ecliptic, that it brings power, which is a key word of Pluto, to the people. And this is where people, take the power into their own hands and take action and basically help to bring about their own transformation. They don't sit complacent. And complacency is not a key word for the month of September. It's anything but. We've got very strong Uranian energy. Uranus, which is the higher octave of Mercury, retrogrades tonight at 10:51 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 1 degree and 28 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. We feel that intensity of the planet, or any planet, an outer planet, when it stations 5 days before and 5 days after. And it really holds the power of that planet, really magnifies and exaggerates the qualities of whatever planet is stationing. With Uranus, it's very similar to eclipses. Eclipses want to wake you up out of being complacent. They want you to mature and evolve. They're big, dramatic wild cards that really can change your life in a flash. Uranus is the same thing. It's known as the Great Awakener, and it wants you to evolve and ascend and commune with others, but it also can bring instant change, instant chaos. And it can be very volatile, and there have been a lot of accidents recently in the last week. And we had Mercury square Uranus on the 3rd of September, on Wednesday. And we feel Uranus transits before they become exact. And we also feel Mars before it becomes exact. So that energy underscores the brilliance that's very accessible to all of us. Uranus, which is the modern ruler of Aquarius, is working in harmony with Pluto, and that lingers through the end of the month. But there will be 5 trines next year and into 28 as well. There's a lot of positive energy for intellectual growth, working with new frequencies and modalities, learning a lot more about space aviation and technology, and coming together as the collective, putting our egos away. And we are in an eclipse weekend, so we've got Uranus retrograding again late tonight Pacific time, and at 1:51 a.m. Wait, I'm a little confused. At 9:51 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time tonight, and at 10, okay, Uranus and I'm all over the place. 10:51 tonight Pacific, 1:58, 12:51 a.m. Forget it. It's happening tonight and tomorrow, and it's all over the place, and we're feeling it. And it can really make you feel like very scattered, like I am right now. This is on purpose. I want you to see how Uranus can make you feel scattered. But it also, last night I was up very late. I couldn't fall asleep. That can also, Uranus can really wake you up. Again, it's the Great Awakener. Bump. And it can wake you up. And I was thinking about the fact that right now, things are not linear. There's this desire to want to really move ahead in a very quick and impulsive way. Uranus can be very impulsive. All of the personal planets are currently direct, unlike, earlier in the year, but they're direct. But you've got all of the outer planets retrograde on the day of the eclipse, because Uranus retrogrades the day before, and we already are feeling Uranus retrograding. So all of the outer planets are retrograde, and then you've got Saturn, the cosmic teacher of the zodiac, that structures through limitations and through taking a hard look at what you need to work on, what you need to take responsibility for, and what you need to face. And Saturn returned to the final degree of Pisces on September 1st. It will be in Pisces through February 13th of next year. And one of the biggest transits or biggest cycles of next year is Saturn and Neptune meeting up at the very first degree of Aries, known as the Aries point. That's the very first degree of the zodiac, and it's a degree known as the world point, meaning that big events occur when outer planets transit there or when eclipses transit there. If you or people you know have a lot of points at fixed degree, at the world axis, not at fixed degrees, at the world axis, you can be well known or famous in what you do. And that would be at 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. There are other ones, but let's not get too scattered because it's already scattered. And also 22 degrees of those signs. That's enough for now. So we are feeling an intensity of wanting to move ahead. We had Neptune cross the world point at the very end of March, on March 30th. And it will return back to the very final degree of Pisces on October 22nd, where it's going to be through January 26th of next year. Saturn ingressed into Aries, the very first degree, world point, on May 24th. Now, as of September 1st, the last 5 degrees of Pisces, because it stations direct on November 27th at 25 degrees of Pisces. So setting off the last 2 total lunar eclipses in the Virgo Pisces axis. March 14th of this year, it was at 24 degrees and 38 minutes of Virgo. And September 17th of last year, it was at 25 degrees and 50 minutes of Pisces. So getting resolution with that story, but we're also getting a redo with Saturn in Pisces, which is not an easy placement. And there was a solar eclipse 10 years ago, or 10 and a half years ago, that was on March 20th of 2015, that was at 29 degrees of Pisces. And that is a fixed star known as Shiad. It's connected with the chart of the Titanic, being lost at sea, or having trouble navigating the sea, and shipwrecks, obviously. But also, it definitely can be connected with suicide and self-sabotage. And mental health is a huge focus with Saturn back in Pisces. And I remember 2 years ago, it was in October, I believe it was the 23rd of October of 2023. It was the final eclipse in Taurus, and it was the weekend when Matthew Perry passed away. And I thought to myself that he is going to be an example of Saturn in Pisces, because among other things, that's very much a focus on addiction and mental health. The last time Saturn was in Pisces was 93 to 96, and Kurt Cobain, who was a Pisces, who was just on the brink of having his Saturn return, he took his life with Saturn at the world point, which is 7 degrees of the mutable signs, and that was in April of 1994, 31 and a half years ago almost. And AA was founded at another time in history when Saturn was in Pisces in 1935, and that was during the Great Depression. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. The program works with 12 steps. It's a sense of surrender, of surrendering to a higher power, of having a sense of faith. AA was founded 90 years ago. So some things have obviously changed in terms of people being traditionally religious, but the idea of helping people worse off than yourself, trying to have something to believe in, a sense of spirituality, which is, again, has evolved in the last 90 years of where people take it, and we're in a whole new way of thinking, particularly with the energy of Pluto in Aquarius, which is really going to be tapping into so many new ways of using the brain that we have not yet learned, like, ways to learn that we just have not been able to do yet. And perhaps it's going to be assisted by technology, I don't know, but there are going to be so many discoveries. There's so many medical discoveries that are in the works now that come up in my feed and I read about that are very exciting. And so there is good ahead. But this fall and this window of the last showdown in Pisces is going to be a tough one. And you really want to prepare for that. And this, I had said this before, and unfortunately, there is a lot of loss right now. It's a north node eclipse, which means you're meant to be going towards that. When it's a south node eclipse, even if it's a new moon, which is a new beginning, there's something you're releasing or letting go. This is a north node eclipse, but it's a lunar eclipse on steroids. It's a total lunar eclipse, less than 3 degrees away from the nodes of the moon, the nodes of karma. And there is an idea of trusting your intuition, listening to your inner voice. There's a lot of sudden loss right now. A lot of people are passing over. We are dealing with the last degree of the zodiac, a degree of endings. We are dealing with people that have had enough emotionally, physically, spiritually. But those that are struggling with mental health issues, that's a very different matter, and one you really, really want to pay attention to, because Neptune hasn't gotten back to this last degree, and that will occur again on October 22nd. Remember that eclipses bring things to light and they make us see things in a way we never have before. Where Saturn is right now and where Neptune will be from October 22nd through January 26th is where that solar eclipse was on March 20th of 2015. And I know somebody right now whose sun is at 29 degrees of Pisces, and she's going through a very, very challenging time. A lot of people with degrees, a lot of Pisces and Virgos are struggling because that's where the eclipses are. Saturn and Neptune, particularly if you have planets or angles at the very last degrees of these signs. But this total lunar eclipse is 15 degrees mutable. The mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So anything between, let's say, 12 degrees and 18 degrees of the mutable signs, you will feel this. And it's occurring in some area of your chart. For everybody, it's occurring somewhere. And even if it's not hitting you, you're not going to get hit by every eclipse. You're going to feel people around you going through big life changes. Eclipses bring monumental events. They're dramatic wild cards. They bring announcements. You may hear of an engagement, a breakup, a divorce. You may hear of a sudden passing, a promotion, a layoff, somebody getting fired, somebody buying a home or selling a home or moving somewhere new altogether. Big changes occur in a short period of time, and again, sometimes it's very surprising, like, wow, that person's moving somewhere I never would have dreamt, or whatever it may be. Maybe it's a really big opportunity. I know I'm really stressing the challenges of this fall and the end of the year, because we are building towards a new dream when Saturn and Neptune come together on February 20th next year at the very first degree of Aries, which is a degree of new beginnings. Saturn is in its fall position, so it is in a challenged position in Aries because the sun in Aries is so strong and confident. It's exalted there. But I still find, and the example I usually give is when I find people experiencing Saturn transiting in their first house, which is the Aries house of the zodiac, that often they get into big relationships, or they start a new job, or they buy a home, or they start something big. It's usually a time of commitment and working towards a goal, and it usually seems to be successful, maybe because it's all that cardinal fire energy. I find Saturn in Pisces to be a lot more difficult with people I know that have it in their natal charts, and even historically there have been very difficult times with Saturn in Pisces. So in honor of Matthew Perry, whose passing will be in, I guess, the end of October. I know he's a famous guy. There have been so many people that have OD'd and died, and I know of people in the last, since the pandemic. It's been awful, but at least he's somebody that was a public figure who brought attention to addiction that he never was able to conquer, but that he fought with all of his, clout that he could to try to bring attention to it. At least that's something, because it's an unending battle. Even when you get sober or you get your life in shape, you could be dealing with depression or other things. And we're in a very difficult time in history. But also, you had Saturn and Neptune entering Aries this year. New beginnings and building a new dream. Saturn is the structure, Neptune is the dream. Uranus, the planet of brilliance and chaos, entered a new sign on July 7th. The mutable air sign of Gemini, now it's retrograding, and it only got to 1 degree and 28 minutes. It returns to Taurus, where it doesn't love being, because Taurus is much more rigid and predictable. And that happens on November 7th, and it'll be there through the end of April of next year, and then it'll be back in Gemini. And Uranus in Gemini will bring a lot of new ways to travel and learn and connect, and it's intellectual revolution, and I think it's going to be very exciting, and also focusing on connecting more in person, in public, dealing with anxiety. And I think that's another thing, and I just think a lot of exciting things are ahead of us, but we've got to navigate this very, very thick fog. Neptune and Pisces represent the fog, and we are now descending into a cave that's filled with fog, but also manifesting magic. Picture fog, but sparkling crystals, much more sparkling than the ones behind me, that are giving you glimpses of light, and there are angels around you, and you will get through this. And the more you try to help those worse off than yourself, and also tune in to your own needs and help yourself as well, we will get through this. and ascend to a whole new reality in 2026, which really peaks next summer when we have Uranus make the exact trine to Pluto on July 18th. And they're working in harmony with Neptune and Aries. And that's going to be really magical. So hang in there. You could get very sudden news. Pay attention to news stories. There could be seismic activity right now with